Drinking, hard gambling, I've been doing some far traveling alone. I've been laying in a hard rock jail way down the road. Ain't nobody to go my bail, I thought you know.
Skiffle was wonderful. Skiffle allowed us to be musicians. Skiffle was American blues folk music that Lonnie Donegan popularised over here, and a whole lot of other people like Chas McDevitt, and it caught on. American folk songs being sung by English people, and you'd have as many people as you wanted in your band. You'd all be strumming chords. There was no great lead playing or anything like that. And it was homemade music, really. You couldn't afford a drummer, so you had a washboard. You couldn't afford a stand-up bass, so you had a T-chest with a string and a pole. And skiffle was what allowed us to think we could actually go out in public and make music without actually having any musical talent whatsoever.
We were very fortunate that everything was possible in those days. And we were fearless. Most of our parents were shell-shocked. So they never talked about the war. There was no communication. So you just had to make your own way. And we made terrible mistakes and we fucked up a lot. There's no doubt that our generation fucked an awful lot of things up. But we tried. And I think creatively and artistically, we were very successful.
Essentially, people think the Beatles were pop, but in actual fact, they came from a bohemian background where they had a skiffle group, and they were called the Quarrymen. And they were just playing acoustic guitars. And Lonnie Donegan had 22 #1 records, and you couldn't call them pop, and you couldn't call them folk, you couldn't call them jazz or blues. You called them skiffle.
Harold Wilson was the Prime Minister. He was a miserable guy. He had a pop, this will not affect the pound in your pocket. Misery arse people all over the place. People were unhappy. And then the Beatles came on the thing and it was Mary Quant and Twiggy, who we don't know if they even had a brain, any of these people, but they appeared to be so exciting compared to everybody before them.
What will the well-dressed mod be wearing this whit weekend? He'll either be wearing a white hipster slacks or blue hipster slacks, with either a cycling shot, which is up here and block stripes across there, meaning with white ground or a blue ground, or on the other hand be wearing a T-shirt with a large emblem on front or on back. This is what the well-dressed mod will be wearing this weekend.
Because when we kind of first got involved with the mob movement in early '64, all the mods that we kind of copied in the early days came out of Streatham and Lewisham and around that area, which I think that's the kind of, I think that was the kind of birthplace of the mods. Guys were wearing herringbone trousers with huge flares and very, very different looking. Tweed, a lot of tweed. But then, of course, it's very difficult to find good gear. The Parker was in, the Scooter was in. That was the main uniform.
There was a mod group, which were a group of people who had their pulse on the cutting edge of fashion, and they didn't want the regular fashion that was in the high streets, and they were looking for different things. And they were influenced by Italian suits, French Italian suits, and American music. That's basically what it was. And it was a lifestyle. It was, as Dedicated Follow Fashion was about. But Dedicated Follow Fashion was written in 1965, and the mods actually started in 1960, 61. It was all early days. Started in the days of the Twist, Atlantic Records, Flamingo, Lyceum, places like that. I mean, history says that The Who started the mod movement, but it didn't. The Who were mods that became musicians.
Well, I think we had the balls to call ourselves mods, even though, me in particular, was a complete bloody wolf in sheep's clothing or a sheep in wolf's clothing. I don't know which way you want to look at it, but I'd always been a teddy boy. And at heart I was a real rocker, but I liked all kinds of music, so to me it was just a uniform. But then it was pointed out to us that this was a bandwagon that was going to roll, and all the music that they liked was the music that we liked, but they didn't have anyone in this country doing it for them. So we became mods overnight. I mean, into the barber with long hair and out as a mod. That really was. It was hysterically funny. It was just amazing because the fashions would change so quickly.
Wily Casanova, his ploy is the oldest in the book, patriotism. His country needs him, and so does she. British to the marrow and always ready to fight for the Union Jack. Union Jack's with everything. He's got it made until the next craze arrives to shatter his beautiful illusion.
I know it was Carnaby Street or us putting the Union Jack on a jacket, which was the first time the Union Jack had ever been used on anything other than the flag. And we actually went to a tailor in Savile Row to get that done in '64 with a Union Jack. He said, I can't do this. He said, I'll end up in jail. Wouldn't do it. So of course off we trotted to the East End, a little bit less fussy about the flag, and made this fabulous jacket. And it was something about the design of that flag that suddenly came to life as soon as you put it in a different context. And that's when the colour started. It really was that Union Jack, the bullseye. All of a sudden you can see that, and that's what's great about the logo we use for Quadrophenia, which is the kind of sepia coloured background of the flag, but then there's this RAF bullseye, and all of a sudden you see this mixture of those two visuals coming together. We were, Pete was at art school. We were looking at the pop artists, Warhol and things like that, and we thought, well, what can we do here? We run out of ideas to do with sticky tape and bits of felt on T-shirts and things. And it came from our manager, Kit Lambert. Let's make a Union Jack jacket. And stroke of genius. The first time we did that and people took photographs of it, it really caused a stir. Quite a few people took umbrage at it. But then, of course, once the cat was out the bag, the Union Jack had been used on something else. Within a year, it was on mugs, plates, shopping bags. You name it. It was worldwide, and it did that. That really was the key to swing in London. It was the key that unlocked the Pandora's box.
I think 50% of the music business in the 60s was fashion, even though people don't want to admit to that. But fashion was everywhere. It was, you knew, like you'd show up for Ready, Steady, Go in London in your suit that you'd just worn on the British tour, and the Who would have a Union Jack jacket, and you go, shit, I wish I'd thought of that. So the fashion was obviously part of the thing. And then the Kinks would come on the stage over there, and they'd have these amazing Edwardian suits, like no one had, whoa, we got to get those. You know what I mean? It was so, obviously it was a big part of it. And remember, the Beatles were the cool people. They were the cool. Whatever they were doing, everyone was trying to do what they were doing.
One television show on a Friday night, and suddenly I was a household name. That's what television did and does. In a country like Britain, where there's only one music show really to watch, and it's every Friday, and nobody else can look at anything else.
Carnaby Street really came to the public's attention in a big way was when the musicians came to Carnaby Street. Before then it was quite a closed thing, and it wasn't until 1966, until Time magazine quoted the word swing in London, that it really took off, and it peaked in '67, in the Summer of Love.